Hey, yo, and welcome to the Boston Sports Brothers podcast, a very special episode this evening. We have Jahmai Webster of NESN joining us. You know, Jahmai is on the sideline or whatever you want to call it, foul territory at all the games for the Red Sox throughout the course of the year. One of our favorite guests, we had him on last year to talk about the offseason, and a lot has changed since then. The team definitely improved since the last time we talked, Jahmai. Made it to the playoffs, and now they're back down in Fort Myers. Spring training is open, and really appreciate you taking some time tonight. First, want to ask you, how have you been? How are things? And what's the latest and greatest in Jemai's world?
Well, I'm happy to be here with you guys. So thanks again for having me on. Certainly a good time as always. Right now, as you said, spring training has begun, and I'm up north still. So hoping to change that.
Nonsense.
We'll see what happens. Some things are being worked out behind the scenes. Hopefully to make that happen for me. But yeah, last time we spoke, obviously we're going into last season with probably some low expectations. I'm not even sure that they had signed Alex Bregman at that point, if I recall correctly. So we're almost in the same spot, but I feel like the pitching right now is locked in for this Red Sox crew heading into 2026. But yeah, I think the last time I did anything Red Sox related that really mattered was the last game of the division series in New York, which was a bummer and left a sour taste in my mouth, as well as everybody else in Red Sox Nation. So looking to see those guys right the ship this year, turn over a new leaf, come out, get even further this upcoming season. And hopefully, it's a magical ride and we're having a different conversation next year when we do it, our annual meetup.
Yes, absolutely.
Agreed.
I mean, Alex Cora kind of said it, in that video that came out the other day. They it's like a marathon, and they haven't finished the race over the past couple of years. Sammy K and Big E, great to see your beautiful faces as well. How are you, fellas?
Doing well, doing well. It's another Monday. It's cold, but
Loving
it's a
it.
Monday.
Oh, it's balmy
President's
today.
Day,
Come
day
on.
off, little long
Yes.
weekend action here. So nothing wrong with that. As I mentioned in our pre-show little talk, I'm dressed way too nice for the podcast tonight. I'm at a work event, so I got to jump off in a minute. But I want to start here with a question for Jahmai before I do have to jump off, and it's this, Jahmai. The off season, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt in terms of the investment in the team. Obviously, the free agent situation with Bregman, the whole trade with Devers, and then it almost looks like they try and correct it with the signing of Suarez, and the pitching staff is elite, in my opinion. But do you think this team is going to be able to support that pitching staff with the lineup that they currently have? And my biggest fear is if any of those guys go down, they're in trouble quick.
Wow, Josh coming out of the gate hot, man. You're gonna just
Swinging for
walk
the
off
fences.
after you leave me with that. I mean, I think that's the $1 million question, man. And a lot of people are asking it, but if you listen to anything that Craig Bresler has said this week, spring training gets underway, or Sam Kennedy or Alex Cora, like they actually feel pretty good about the roster that they've constructed because it's a lot of versatility. So, I mean, you think about what Bregman was able to give you in what 60, 70, 80 something games because he had a lot of injuries, right? And he was able to, he's able to hit for slug and there's some power there. And obviously Fenway was made for his swing, but now they've kind of pieced his absence together kind of in aggregate by bringing in Contreras. They obviously hope or expect to have a healthy Marcelo Meyer. They got Caleb Durbin from Milwaukee. So you start to maybe have three players take the place of one as it relates to some of the offensive production. So I think with this pitching staff, which is a strain, a hell of a pivot by Craig and the group for sure after they missed out on Bregman to really bolster this pitching staff, which is arguably one of the best in the league, certainly one of the best in the American League. So they're going to be preventing runs from coming across. So if you're not chasing 3, 4, 5, 6 on a nightly basis, you got to feel pretty good if your group is giving up 1 to 2 runs a night, thinking that you can maybe eke a few more runs than the opposition across. So I think with this new strategy, with this now focus on preventing runs from coming across, I think that we may be surprised with just how proficient this team is offensively because you got some guys now in Wilson Contreras who are going to have some quality at bats. I think Alex talked about that the other day. Just talk about his plate discipline, his
Mhm.
ability to get on base. You still have Massa hanging in the wings, trying to find his way onto the field in the outfield, but he's going to be your primary DH. So another quality at bat. You have Roman Anthony, who is also another quality at bat. So having quality at bats, stacking those on top of each other, then you have Trevor Story, who has the ability to leave the ballpark. Tristan Casas, you wonder how he's going to play in to this whole operation. And then you have some pieces on the bench now with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Romy Gonzalez also. So you start to really take a closer look into this roster, dive a little bit deeper into just the surface level or maybe the names or the star power that's lacking. And you're like, okay, this group it's going to be scrappy. They're going to be able to eke some runs across, and the pitching you expect to be dominant. So at the end of the day, you kind of are going to want to see kind of where things end up. And then you obviously got your back end of the pitching staff guys who are going to shut it down. If the ball gets in the hands of Whitlock and or Aldis Chapman, as it was last year, you know it's game over if there's a lead. So it's one of those lineups where, of course, the star power is lacking. So you feel not as good as maybe the Blue Jays at this time or the Yankees, you know, the teams in your division, even Baltimore, who got Pete Alonso, somebody that you targeted in this offseason as well. So you may not feel good about the star power, but as a collective, I feel like this group is going to compete and maybe surprise a lot of people.
And that's
Something
exactly
tells me
one of the
Sammy K
things.
is feeling the same way. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, no, that's I literally wrote that in our script. It's like, is what the front office envisioning, having a plethora of pitching that's going to give you, like you said, 2 to 3 runs to keep you in the game. Whereas now you have a roster of, maybe you don't have guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark, but they can put together good at bats, and they're going to give you, what's it called? Maybe 1 to 2 runs, 3 runs, something like that to keep you in the game, and give you those wins that are 1 or 2 runs that really make a difference at the end of the day. Because there's obviously, every game matters. There's 162 games. You can win a couple, you can lose a couple here. It's not going to make or break that big of a deal, but it kind of really does. It starts to make a little bit more of a deal towards the end of the season, when those games are really mattering and they're underneath the microscope. But when you really look at it, those games in beginning of April, they're just as important as the
Yeah.
ones at the end of October. So I mean, at the end of September. So it's, if this team can, A, get off on a good start, and B, go with that vision of what the front office has of, having these pitchers that are quality starting pitchers, give you 6, 7 innings, 5 innings, 6 innings, whatever it is, and give you 3 runs and at least keep you in the game, you got a good shot to win the game. And that's kind of what I think they're gearing towards. Is it going to work? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
It's not really been done before, so that's really the only way to put it. Is this going to work out? I mean, I think it will. Personally, just the way that the game is played now, it's so much
Yeah.
faster. It's much quicker. Everything's based off of pitching, and we have so much of it that it's just like, it's kind of pouring out the ears. Would I have loved Pete Alonso or Alex Bregman? Of course, I would have loved to have them back. But I think with what they did, especially even that small trade that no one talks about with Jonathan Garcia, I'm probably butchering his name, for Jake Bennett. I mean,
Password. You're
that
Stinson.
that kid Bennett, he can throw the ball, and it's
Yeah.
just like guy after guy after guy after guy. And when you have someone like Garrett Crochet make Earl Chapman look small, there was a picture that I saw. I don't know if you saw it, and I was like, how in the heck does he make Garrett Chapman look? I mean, Earl Chapman look small. That's insane. That's what they're going with, and I'm gonna ride with it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm right. Listen, you and I are on the same wavelength, Sammy, and I believe that's going to be the strategy too. And like I said, a great pivot. And really, when you think about it, it probably was the direction that they could have gone initially, because Alex Bregman signed a deal that's going to take him almost to his age 40 season, obviously with the opt outs or whatever the case may be, whatever particulars in the contract with the Cubs. But as players get older, it's just with the exception of Tom Brady, we've seen the fall off. The production is just a natural occurrence. Fortunately, you aren't who you were when you're 21, right? You're not getting that player anymore. They're a lot smarter, they're a lot wiser. They know how to make it through a 162 game season, but just physically, you start to see a little bit of the drop off. Pitching and defense is where this game is won. And now they have such a great piece of that with the top end rotation guys, led and anchored by Garrett Crochet, who has been constantly. I mean, last year was his first full season as a starter
Yeah.
that he was able to get through, make 30 plus starts. Obviously, got a taste of that with the White Sox, but now he's building off of that made a playoff start that was out of this world, absolutely dominated the Yankees, and now he's building up on that, runner up in the Cy Young. Like, he's going to give you that for another few years and beyond is what you expect. So you've added Sonny Gray, you've added Ranger Suarez, guys who pitch to contact. They're going to have the defense plan behind them, guys who also know how to navigate lineups and get outs. So, and then I didn't even mention Brian Bale's coming back with another year of experience, and he's going to be that much better. He's going to be in the WBC. That can be an invaluable experience for him, being able to ramp it up early and get a taste of that. So I just feel really good about this pitching staff, and I think the offense will come in spots, and who knows? Guys can go on a heater, and somebody might surprise you. So we don't know what we're getting. There's a lot more question marks as it relates to the offense, but I think because the pitching is so good, and that's where games are won and lost and dominated at times, and the Red Sox are in prime position with that.
Yeah, and I think we have some young pitchers too that we didn't even touch on as well, which
Yeah.
is, just an embarrassment of riches that the Red Sox do have from that positional group, which is crazy. I think one thing I would love to get your opinion on, Jahmai, is I think at times this offseason may have seemed underwhelming, but I'm trying to take a look at this from a perspective of the core of this team that was here last year. Most of those players are still here. Yes, there have been some additions and some subtractions. We talked about Bregman obviously being the biggest subtraction from the group from last year, but there have been a lot of great additions as well. What do you think the core of this team and going through that experience that they went through last year, especially the second half surge, can do to make sure that they got off to the right foot this year and really can surprise some people early?
I think it was invaluable, man. And it's something that you can't teach. You have to go through it and experience. So having that horrible taste in your mouth where you're losing a series that was in your grasp at Yankee Stadium, that's going to stick with a lot of these guys. This core is together. This group experienced that despair in the clubhouse. I remember just talking to Carlos Narvaez afterwards and him being just dejected and so sad about the season being over because you're riding this spaceship, if you will, and it's going 100 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden it's done. It's over. Like, sorry, guys, we'll see you next year. And for a lot of guys, that's hard to really rectify. And that's hard to really fathom and to a tough pill to swallow. So I think that experience is going to carry this group through. And I was just looking at the schedule. I mean, Cincinnati was a team that was, pushing for a playoff spot last year. So they got some good pieces, obviously made some trades this offseason, but a winnable series. You expect the Red Sox to win 2 out of 3. Then you got Houston, who is kind of rebuilding. They missed the playoffs for the first time in like a decade, but they have some pieces, but I don't think they're going to be who they were. And then you got San Diego coming in here, and then Milwaukee. Milwaukee's going to be tough, obviously early, but some series that should be winnable early. Build the confidence up, and if you can steal these, and as you said, Sammy, this is these games are just as important as they are in late October, late September, and this group was playing meaningful games late into the year last year. So understanding that, and yes, it's one game at a time, and there are 162 of them, but they all count just the same. I think is an experience that's going to help this group with the veteran leadership that is already in place and guys who have just a year under their belt with some really good experience. They just weren't playing for their stats on the back of their baseball card. They were playing for something that was bigger, which was a championship that ultimately fell short. But when you have those goals in mind, I think that's something that propels teams forward year after year. So we'll see how it affects this group, but so far so good. And everybody, for the most part, with the exception of Roman Gonzalez, has been healthy, dealing with some nagging things this early in spring training. So it's almost like this group is picking up where it left off.
Yeah, and that the one thing that we didn't really touch on, and excuses aren't, I mean, injuries and excuses,
Yeah.
they can go hand in hand for whatever that is, but to have a guy like Lucas Giolito had such a bounce back season go down right before that series with the Yankees started, it's just really took the air out of your tires. Granted, Garrett Crochet, like you said, pitched a crazy, phenomenal game, and things kind of just fell apart. You kind of knew the Yankees were going to come back in game 2, and then game 3 kind of happened. And game 3, it's really anybody's game for the most part.
And then, Cam Squirtler pitched the game of his life. So,
yeah. And what are you going to do with that? You can't do anything about it at that, right? And the whole 3 games at one what's it called, venue is
One
just
site, yeah.
that makes no sense. We talked about it last year, and it was like, if the away team goes to that like in our instance, if we went to Yankee Stadium, if we won that first game, we should be able to have that second game either at home or the third game at home if it gets to that point. But if not, do something with it. But having all 3 games, just for me, that was just one takeaway that I thought. I was like, I don't like that at all. I think that's me maybe being an old school baseball head, whatever the case is. But yeah, just the 3-game things I didn't like. Eric, I see you chomping at the bits.
Yeah, I think just, thinking about the playoffs last year, obviously there are 3 AL East teams that made the playoffs and, obviously the Blue Jays made it to the World Series. Those teams, the Blue Jays and the Yankees, continue to add pieces and the AL East is going to be tough again. How do you see the AL East shaking out this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough, Eric. It is. It really is because, you talked about a Blue Jay squad that got there. Obviously, they lost Bo Bichette, but he was also injured, leading up to the latter half of a lot of what they accomplished. And so you think that they were able to retool with some of the pieces that they got. They got the Japanese guy, and obviously, they've made some additions that make you feel like they're gonna be right there where they left off last year. Yankees are the Yankees, and they've improved as well. Re-signing Bellinger, I think, was important for them. He had a really great year with them. You think about Garrett Cole coming back at some point mid-season. Obviously, off the Tommy John, it's a lot of question marks, but dude is an elite pitcher. So if you get 90% of him, it's going to be a lot better than somebody you may be able to pick up off the street. So they're going to be right back in the mix as well. And then you think about what Baltimore has done. New manager, franchise cornerstone now on the right side of the infield, and Pete Alonso obviously have some pieces there already. Gunnar Henderson. I know that, Jackson Holiday broke his hamate, so he's going to start the year on the IL, and he's going to be coming along later. But still, scrappy team that even gave you issues, even though they were in a rebuild and lost a lot of their pieces and traded away a lot of their pieces. But they've been a team that has proven, win 100 plus games, when they had Brandon Hyde as their manager before they got rid of him, which was a surprise to a lot of people around the league. So you feel like that was just almost an anomaly of a year that they had, and they'll be right back in the mix too. And then there's you, and then there's Tampa Bay. Like, I don't think that they're going to be sorry. You know what I mean? Even if they're a team that's teetering around, say, 500, right? And they're a team that maybe is 81-81. Like, that means they're still in contention and a team that's making viable strides, and probably making some additions as you may have done at the All-Star break, at the trade deadline. So I think all these teams are going to be competitive unless injuries, which is what happens to the Red Sox towards the postseason last year happen. Then all things equal, these teams are healthy. I think it's going to be a race between all of them. And at the end of the day, I think cream rises to the top, and whoever's has the stars who are producing, whoever's made some additions at the trade deadline or before, that could propel whoever over. But I think it's all pretty equal. For my money, I think Toronto's the favorite coming out, but Yankees are almost a 1A. But 3 teams can make it to the playoffs from a division, and same thing could happen as previous years with this reformatted wild card. So you get into the dance with Alex Cora, and then it's anybody's show. But I think for my money, it's probably Toronto right now, given how far they came. But, this is why you play the games, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. And who knows? Maybe the Red Sox still make some more moves. If there's a trade to be made out there, there are a lot of free agents still looking for jobs. Lucas Giolito, we mentioned him. He's still looking for a job. I'm not sure he'll be joining this rotation, but there's players of that caliber. I think my point is that you can still add and improve your group, because the Red Sox do have a lot of players with minor league options, even though they got a lot of big league experience. If you feel like you can continue to build your depth from a positional standpoint, from a infielder or outfielder, and you got some guys who you can stash in AAA. Christian Campbell probably be one of those guys who starts the year with the Woo Sox before he even sniffs the big leagues at some point. But if you got pieces like that down there, then you're probably that much better of a big league group.
I think from an expectation standpoint too, obviously locally, the expectations are always high for the Red Sox, regardless, year in and year out. But I think something that I want to touch on is, you were talking a little bit about how it's kind of like the Blue Jays are looked at as the favorite and the Yankees are right there. I wonder, like nationally, from what you've been hearing, what are the expectations for the Red Sox? Do people think that they're a playoff team or just kind of on the cusp? Because I kind of think being a team that might be not considered to make it right now might actually be a good motivating factor for the squad, because it's kind of like, hey, people aren't talking about them enough or in the right way. That might be something that they can use for bulletin board material throughout the season.
Yeah, I think they're sneaking under the radar because they haven't had that sexy splash free agent. The acquisitions have come via trade. It's been Trader Craig for the better part of the fall and winter. He's been going crazy with those. So they missed out on something. Even Bo Bichette. Like, I'm not sure Bo Bichette would have been. Obviously, he's an elite hitter, but defense has some question marks. He's made a lot of errors and things like that. And he can be a lot better there. But I'm not sure even signing him would have been the better pivot than the direction that they went in with the pitching staff. But I feel like nationally, I think I saw a tweet from Buster Olney actually not too long ago about just kind of highlighting the moves that were made by the Red Sox and saying, this is a team that's gonna be a contender and somebody who should be on a lot of people's radars. So that started to make me feel like the narrative nationally may have shifted given how good this pitching staff is. I think you cannot discount the level of star power that the potential that this group has and guys who have done it at a high level. Sonny Gray, for example, is that piece, and he's your number 2 pretty much right now. So, and then you got Ranger Suarez, who's your number 3, who was in a Philly staff last year with Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler, and he held his own just the same. So I think that is what is shifting a lot of minds as it relates to the Red Sox. And then you think about, I think it was the MLB 100 list where you had two of the three outfielders in the top 10. Right. So the people are paying attention to the guys who are going to be contributing on an everyday basis and the stars of the roster, even though they may not be mega stars like Aaron Judge or a Bryce Harper type here anymore, like the Big Poppies, the Hanley Ramirez. I mean, Hanley Ramirez. Hanley's Ramirez is on my mind because that thing that Brock
Something
Holt had
else
the
you
other day.
did.
Yeah, that reminded me of his. But the
Manny
Manny
Ramirez?
Ramirez. The Manny Ramirez's and, Kevin Euclid's of the world, those type of players may not exist in this stratosphere currently, but I think these guys have a chance to really cement themselves as a legendary Red Sox when you think about the Roman Anthony's, right? The guys who can make that next leap. So I feel like the national narrative is beginning to shift and people are beginning to take notice. But I still think the Red Sox are undervalued for what they've been able to do until people start to really dive deep into the roster and take a closer look that is obviously led by this amazing pitching staff so far on paper.
Yeah, I agree. And then Roman Anthony is the big, question mark is, there's all this talk about what he's going to do. And then you see what he is able to do on the field. He does go down with that oblique strain, swinging at
Yeah.
that, 12-6 curveball. But it's just, you wonder, it's just like, you kind of have that PTSD because of Mookie Betts and getting rid of him and having that all-star caliber player. And it's like, you kind of only get that once in a lifetime. And it's like, do the Red Sox really get that opportunity again where they get that once in a lifetime player in Roman Anthony? And he might surprise a lot of people. And, they might move him up to I think I saw him projected to play to bat either first or second. They might move him down a third or fourth just to be able to get, runs in with people on base. So that for me, I think we're going to get pop. I think it's going to come from Roman Anthony. And believe it or not, a lot of people, someone that's going under the radar that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is Tristan Casas.
Yeah.
He was another guy that gave you 30 plus bombs. As weird as he was, wearing a full on ski mask in the middle of the summertime, but let him do what he does. He looked good taking fielding practice today.
Yeah, grounded.
He looked really, really good running and doing what he needed to do. So let him do his weird things. And if you can get him to start getting some bats too, you might not have to do much at the trade deadline other than add a bullpen arm or maybe a depth piece for an injury that's gone down or here or there or whatever the case is. So I fully expect this team to do pretty decently well. Again, it's all going to come down to whether or not what the front office envisioned and those pitching those really, really, really tight games. If that actually happens, that's really what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you mentioned Tristan Casas. He was a guy that I was big on the 310 to Left podcast that we did early in the offseason with Lou Merloni and Alana Rizzo. And I can't believe I forgot to mention him because you just don't know where he's going to fit in right now, because obviously Wilson Contreras has been brought over to play a lot of first base. So many people project that he may start the year in AAA too. But I think it's low expectations for him as well because of the piece that they brought in. But I think this guy is good to be 30 homers year for, into the future, because he has that capability and he has that strength, big guy, and can give you that pop and that slug from a first base position. So that's another guy. And that's why I say the AAA depth is really starting to build, and the major league roster is good. And I think that's the sign of winning teams that go deep. And eventually, you may not start with the 26, but I think a lot of guys are going to contribute to what they hope to accomplish over the course of the season. And I think Costas is one of those pieces. And he's obviously, with his cryptic tweets, in the winter or whatever the case may be, like, he understands. Knowing him and getting to know him over the years, I know that it's something that motivates him, and he obviously wants to be up here. I remember when he was called up and they said, "Hey, you're going to start, in the big leagues or whatever." And he was breaking spring training camp, and he was like, the time before he was called up, excuse me. And they were like, "We're going to send you down, but eventually you'll be up there." And he made the statement, to Alex and the group at that time. He's like, "This is the last time that this is happening, like, I'm going to be a big leaguer basically perpetually until I decide to hang up my cleats." And so the confidence is there with the kid, and he is one of those who he might lead quietly or does his own quirky thing that a lot of people don't get, but inside there is a really good baseball player with the potential for so much more that we have yet to see, because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. I mean, last year was catastrophic injury. The year before that with the rib, that was a fluke situation. That was like, what do we, you broke rib cartilage? It was like Chris Sale situation. Kept him out for extended period of time. So you just want to see him get through a whole season and then see what you have.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was two freak injuries with the guy, going down with the patellar injury, and then, like you said, the injury before that the year previously. A full year of a healthy Tristan Casas, whether it's down, in the minors for a little bit and then he comes up, or whether, he is that full timer like he said he was going to be, which I love to hear that confidence as well too. As a little inside story, kind of makes me happy. But I kind of wanted to switch gears a little bit and was curious to see what your thoughts were about the World Baseball Classic, if you have any interest in it, and if you're pulling for a team. I know we have our players are kind of all spread out, and
Yeah.
Great Britain and US and Venezuela.
Yeah, I mean, our guys are all over the place. It's the United Nations with Red Sox players playing everywhere. I mean, you got even Nate Eaton playing for Great Britain.
I
I
know,
gotta talk to
crazy.
him about what the connection is there at some point. But I mean, Aldis Chapman too. So
That's
players
right.
all
Yeah,
over.
Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman's playing for Great Britain. So players all over. But obviously, I'm Team USA out the gate. I mean, I want to see Team USA win it all. If there's a favorite, it's got to be the reigning champs, Japan, obviously. But you got to think, with the power that the Dominican Republic has, those guys, they faltered last time, and you got to think that they're coming back hungry. Puerto Rico is always a contender. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out, but I'm Team USA, obviously pulling for those guys for sure, and Roman will be representing with them. Garrett Whitlock, and Alex Bregman, a former Red Sox, who will be there as well. So I'm excited about it because I enjoy just high intensity baseball that matters, and we get it this early in the year, which is always exciting. It's like a prelude to the playoffs, and it's something that, you're playing for something much more bigger than yourself, because this is for the country that you're representing. So it's always exciting, and it's great theater. And I think the championship is in Miami this year. So who knows? Maybe if I do get down to Florida, I'll mosey on over there and be able to see the championship. But I'm excited about it. I'm always excited about it, just like every year. Just, it's one of those things that anytime it's a world competition and you can kind of see your country being represented, it's something that I watch. I mean, I'm watching the Winter Olympics right now, and I know nothing about curling or the bobsled or whatever the case may be. I just
That
enjoy the US.
The ice in Milan right now is like my girlfriend and I, we've been watching the speed skating and anything on ice, and the people have been just falling like
Yeah,
crazy. It's been
they've been getting crushed.
insane.
They've been getting
Oh,
crushed.
It's wild.
it's crazy. I think like also the fact that the World Baseball Classic is coming on the heels of the Olympic, I think adds some extra juice to it, right?
Right.
Everyone's watching right now, rooting for their countries. It's like, hey, right after that ends, there's another competition that people can jump right into and kind of have that national pride again, which is really cool too.
Yeah, riding that momentum is certainly good for them. And then you think about 2027 with the Olympics and having baseball back, and that's going to be some carryover too. So a lot more interest because big leaguers want to be able to play into that. So I think there's going to be a lot more discussions before that becomes an official thing. Obviously, with the new CBA have to be ratified after this year. So we'll see
Thank
where that
God.
goes. But
Goddamn Dodgers.
I know.
Well,
Ruin it for
it's
everybody. Kyle
Yeah.
Tucker and Edwin Diaz. Like,
Yeah, I know.
It's interesting. I think like one thing that I think about is like last year for hockey, there was the Four Nations that took place, part of that took place in Boston. And I think that that was a huge boon for the Olympics for, international hockey. I see the same thing happening with the World Baseball Classic this year with the Olympics next year. So really interesting to see if that parallel kind of translates for baseball like it did for hockey. But Jahmai, real quick, we have a few quick lightning questions for you and then we want to get you out of here.
Okay.
Real quick, what is your favorite restaurant in the Fenway area?
Ooh, favorite restaurant in the Fenway area. This is terrible, but I'm gonna say Yard House.
Oh, you can never go
hey,
wrong there.
House, they
Because
have
of the
that steak sandwich that
variety.
I love. I love
Yeah,
that steak sandwich
I
that
eat
they
dinner
have.
there quite a bit during the season, so I just love the variety.
All right. What's your favorite use of Fenway Park besides baseball?
Favorite use of Fenway Park besides baseball, it's got to be the MGM Music Hall. It's a great place to watch a concert, intimate. If you can get a nice act there, I saw Bruno Mars there. And it's funny. This was a while ago, so I was sitting behind Grant Williams when he was on the Celtics, and he blocked my view most of the part. But I was like 10 rows behind, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean MGM's a great place to go see a show. I've seen a couple acts there. I've seen the Roots, a legendary Roots crew was awesome there. That was one of the best concerts. And I've seen one of our favorite bands, Ripe, who's a Boston local band, play there a few times. They've
Plotty, who
obviously.
had just jumped on, his cousin is the drummer for it. They all went to
Wow.
Berkeley. When those guys graduated from Berkeley, like we actually had him on the show too. He was saying, half of his class went to LA to go do music stuff. The other half went to like New York, or I think it was like Tennessee or something like that. And they were like, we're just going to stay local. We're going to play local gigs. And they started playing all over the place. And then they got House of Blues, and then they got MGM Fenway. And like you said, that venue is that venue
Yeah,
is awesome. It's really, really pretty.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they're blowing up. That's awesome.
Yeah. They're good.
What was
Fun
your
time.
favorite on air moment from last season?
Oh, that's the easy one. The 1975 broadcast. That was incredible. Really well done by a lot of our folks behind the scenes at NESN. And
Didn't
to
they
have,
have you in a bunch of different suits?
yeah, I know. I did.
You
I
in
wore
like
I had
3
two outfit
different suits.
changes across
2 outfit
two
changes.
days.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it was great to be able to execute the vision. And actually,
I
we
enjoyed
we
that.
we inputted it for the Emmys this year. So hopefully it gets nominated and we win. But that was probably one of the highlights of the year for me as it related to just our crew and being able to do something fun like that.
That'd be awesome.
You guys pulled that off as far as like the details with like, first out, second out, the runs, all that
Yeah.
stuff, and all the font and all that, and then the suits just kind of capped it off. I mean,
Yeah, that was fun.
the New England social media kills
Yeah.
it.
Maybe I was born in a different era because I really crushed the 70s looks.
Speaking of social media, where can the people follow you on your socials?
I'm on Twitter, which is X. I will never refer to it as that. I don't know why. It's just
I don't think
old
anyone ever
habits
will.
die hard. At Webster on TV, Instagram at Webster on TV. I've had TikTok, but I just started to how when you're on it, I don't know if you guys have iPhones, but you're on an app and you don't use it for a while, it kind of fades away. So I just rebooted it and it's now up on my phone. So I may be starting to tap into TikTok and I don't even know. I got to look at what my username is. I think it's Jahmai W actually. Yeah, that's correct. So Jahmai W on TikTok, which hopefully I'll start to give some more behind the scenes stuff and, just different fun that happens over the course of a 162 game season.
And we as
Awesome.
fans love that.
Yeah, yes, they do. Jahmai, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule. We look forward to seeing you on air soon for the regular season, but hopefully we're going to see you on air for spring training down in Florida here soon. So we'll be looking out for you starting soon on NESN. And thank you again for coming on with us.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. Always a pleasure, and hope to see you, or hope you see
100%.
me down in Florida.
I have a feeling we will.
100%. All right, Jahmai, have a good night. Thank you again. You
All right,
too.
take it easy. Bye-bye. All right, Sammy. Jahmai
Hey.
Webster. What a guy. One of our favorites. Definitely becoming an annual tradition to talk about the offseason with him and the look ahead to the next seasons. For everyone here that is a baseball guy, some great insight there from Jahmai and very much getting me hyped up for the 2020. Whoa, I said too many 20s there. 2026
2020,
baseball season.
2020. Yeah, he calmed some of those nerves and was like, "Listen, like I said, that pitching and like I was gonna go into this episode and kind of talk about, whether or not we had Jahmai guest or anything like that was really in the envisioning of the front office. This is what they have, and that is what it is, and that's what they're banking on. So let's see if it works, and let's hope Roman Anthony has that breakout season, and Pluto can hit." Can give you anywhere from 15 to 20 home runs realistically because, he's going to be down in the minors for a little bit. So if we can get anywhere from 10 to like 18, 20 out of him, I think this team will be in pretty good shape. And on top of that, I would hope that he would get hot towards the end of the season. Like, they typically you do when you come up mid-season or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just to finish up the talk about the Sox here too. I feel like one of the big things that we talked about a lot after the season last year was like lack of depth, and I think that's something that the Red Sox really did do a good job of addressing this offseason, and I don't think it's being talked about enough because I think the spotlight is where's the star power, where's this guy who's going to hit bombs out of the park. And yeah, I still think that that's a concern. I've been on that bandwagon, that train. I've been the conductor of that train, honestly. But I think taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, if someone goes down, let's say, God forbid you lose Contreras, you have Pluto waiting in the wings to come in and be that first baseman. And I think, that's a nice luxury that this team has that they didn't have last year that could be to their advantage. So very interesting talk with Jahmai and very interesting on the outlook for the season. I'm very excited for spring training again, just because it is a sign that the weather is about to turn and summer is right here, but there is a lot of great things to talk about. But I do think talking about turning the page, there is a big thing that's going on, and we alluded to it a little bit with Jahmai, and it is the Winter Olympics. So Sam, I'm going to throw it over to you to break us into what's been happening in the world of Olympic sports across the globe.
Yeah, what have you been your thoughts about these winter games? Because I've personally been watching them. I just realized the whole reason why they scream curl during curling. I thought that was, for me, I finally understand it. I feel like it took me over a decade of watching curling to really understand what's going on. I don't know if you saw the controversy about
Canada. Oh, Canada.
the little hold on, I gotta do it. I gotta do it this way. So here goes the disc, and what does the Canadian do? Oh, he just gives just a little tap just to give it that. Not only a little tap, but it was like a curved tap to give it that
a little shove.
That little spin. And then not only that, but there was another controversy that I kind of want to touch on while it's in my head. People are gonna look at me crazy. And again, this is a podcast, so we can talk about whatever we want. I had to literally look it up to be like, no, is this satire or is this legitimate? So apparently there have been and I think France was the first country to put in a formal complaint about it. I guess athletes in doing the ski jump have been doing penile injections of hyaluronic acid, which is making their phallus. So you have heard about it.
This was I think this was big before the Olympics started. It was like right after the opening ceremonies they talked about it. So it's interesting.
That requires them to get a bigger suit. So then that bigger suit, even though it's like only like 0.5 centimeters bigger, allows them to get like 6 or 7 extra meters on their jump. And it was just like, really, we're really going to that. So just what 30 meters. But I was just like, we're really going to that lengths of like come on, like it's just like there's always going to be cheating no matter what you're doing, where you are in sports. But to think that it would get to that level where you're injecting yourself into that sensitive of an area with some foreign substance that you don't know what it's going to do is just like,
say what you want, but Bill Belichick never had his players inject their peni to play football better. So we'll take that one off the schneid here. But I do think like what I have been watching is I've been watching a little bit of figure skating. I watched a little bit of bobsledding today. The ski jumps have been pretty interesting. I was watching the men's, and today, women's yesterday. I've also been watching speed skating. Like you said, the ice has been terrible.
Ice is
And obviously, did you see the figure skater from the US, the top male figure skater, the favorite for gold? He took 2 tumbles. I think
I
it was
know.
Friday night.
I
And
know.
like you have to wonder, did the ice conditions play into that?
Oh,
Because
100%.
like, you know,
I don't
this
want to use that as an excuse, but I mean,
no.
he was on other ice that wasn't. I believe it wasn't in Milan. I believe it was somewhere else, and he was pulling off like they call him the quad god because he just pulls off those quadruple axles like nothing. Like that.
Him and
That's
him and Saquon, they're the quad gods.
I know that like it's something that's never been done, and then he pulls out the whole like the infamous backflip, and that comes back out, and then all of a sudden he goes into eighth place. It's like I saw that pop up. I'm like, no, this isn't real, and it's. The ice is a big concern and someone's going to get hurt and people already are watching the speed skating. They were talking about the new suits. They actually wear a Kevlar suit underneath their actual speed suit. I don't know if you knew that.
Because they're going so fast. It actually makes sense because the injuries that they sustain when they fall, they're not
They're
like a
going to
normal,
get cut.
hey, yeah, they're not like a normal, like, oh, you're gonna fall on the ice, like, oh, get back up. Like they're traveling at high speeds.
And
Like
those blades aren't like it's just like, oh, it's like, okay, it's just a fine, piece of metal where you're going that fast and you have a fine piece of metal and you make that cut. No, this is a thin sharp fucking blades. I mean, the ice as we're talking about it, I'm literally watching people falling on the ice as we speak. I don't know if it was recorded from earlier today, but it's just that's a big deal. That's something that they got to take care of, in my opinion.
talking of the ice and also talking about like what we're watching at the Olympics, I think it's the perfect segue to talk about Olympic hockey, men's hockey and women's hockey. But
Which
I
I've
think
been loving.
men's hockey is certainly where I think most people's eyes are at the competition and in the Olympic competition. And I think, obviously it's having NHL players back in, which is a huge draw. And so far, USA men's hockey has been fairly great. They're 3-0-0 in the group stage. So they've secured the number 2 seed and an automatic bid to the quarterfinals. And they are going to face the winner of Sweden and Latvia. And that's going to take place on Wednesday this week on the 18th. So very, very, very interesting. USA is doing exactly what we expected for them to do. I think at the end of the day, this kind of qualifying group round is not really where the excitement is going to come. It's really going to come once we start getting into the elimination stage, which obviously I was about to say the Bruins, but the U.S. has already made their way to the quarterfinals. A lot that will transpire this week on where the team goes and what ultimately medal they can finish with, because we all expect gold, but we know that there are some other countries out there like Canada and some other countries that are out there that we need to be weary of as well, because they have a lot of talent out there as well.
Yeah, and I've been watching myself and just being able to watch just I don't want to say it's a different level of hockey, but it is. It almost feels like kind of playoff hockey. They're playing for a little bit more. They're playing for their country. One of the things I
Yeah, but
wanted to talk. What was that? Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say we could talk about the Bruins and how they've been playing for USA Hockey, or not USA Hockey, but in Italy as well, and just talk about like kind of their performances thus far. So Swayman is the one I think we should start with. Did you get to watch that game versus Denmark?
I did. It was not a pretty game for him in the beginning. I mean, they did come back to win. What was it, 5-3? I believe 6-3.
5-3, but
5-3. Yeah.
he did not look good.
No, he did not. But like Gabe has here, Charlie McAvoy, I guess had 0 points, but I guess he was a +2 on the ice, which is good to see. So obviously, I'm a big plus minus guy. If you're a plus, in my opinion, that means that you're affecting the game in different ways. And they're 3-0-0. They're 3-0-0, which means that they're doing what they need to be doing. And then again, I haven't watched much of Pasternak, but I guess he's got 3 points. I'll kind of let you take that over a little bit. You probably watched a little bit more on that end.
I have not actually. I've just been, a
No.
little bit busy. But Pasta is the leader of Czechia. So he has been, the most dominant player there for them. So he's doing what you expect that he would do. He was the flag bearer for his country walking into the opening ceremony, so he's doing a great job of representing them. A few other the Bruins that are worth talking about are Dan's Losamelis. He's from Latvia. He played for UMass. He's a prospect. He's had 2 goals thus far, so that's exciting to look at someone who's in the prospect pool, who's also doing well in the Olympics. It's a good bode for someone who could potentially make an impact to the roster, if not this year, later on down the road. Then you have the Lindholms, Hampus and Elias, who are not related, not brothers, but are both on the Sweden team and really have not done much so far, which is kind of interesting because they're 2 of the stronger players on that roster. And to close on out, Korpisalo, who is on Finland, has not played. So that's kind of what the Bruins representation in Italy has looked like so far. But I do think that there has been some other big things that have happened. And this is kind of the concern with NHL players coming on over and playing in international hockey. You have the LA Kings, Kevin Fiala, who is had a season-ending leg injury, and that happened against Canada thanks to old friend Tom Wilson. And this is one of the things that, again, when you think about having these players who play professionally play in non-NHL games, obviously they can get injured in NHL games, but, Fiala here has no possibility of playing for the Kings for the rest of the year. That's a major loss. And I think, from a Bruins perspective, something that I'm hoping doesn't happen is a repeat of last year where McAvoy got knocked out and you lost him for a period of time going into the postseason. So something that, we also need to kind of be aware of as we're watching the Olympics here. And as great as the competition has been, it's kind of something that's sitting in the back of my mind, in the back of my head. So not something that's dominating the thoughts, but it's kind of something that, you can't really run away from.
Yeah, especially with the ice being the way that it's been, it's definitely scary to see them go out there. And yeah, like you said, also at the same time, what else do we have here? We have the women's US hockey has completely just bull rushed the competition, so to speak.
Dominant.
So that's I love to see that. Unbeknownst to me, I just learned this past week. My cousin's wife actually was a hockey player in high school and stuff like that, and she was actually invited to try out for the 2010 women's
Very
Olympic
cool.
team. Yeah, Emily. So I guess she was extremely good, and I'm sure if she threw on skates and spent a couple of weeks getting things
We
back
gotta get her on the
going.
pod. We gotta get her
Yeah,
on the pod. Yeah.
yeah. I just learned this not too long ago. So
See,
yeah,
you never know who's in your orbit and what people have done, right? You could have potential Olympic athletes in your midst. So,
you
which is
never know.
crazy.
I mean, hey, I've had I know people that whose cousins are on the U.S. team for the most obscure sports like badminton or something like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, you're still representing your country,
Yeah,
and you're still getting the real gold medal as you would the Michael Phelps would get or
Yep,
LeBron
exactly.
James would get.
It's
So it
all
doesn't
legit.
really
It's
matter.
all legit. Speaking of USA women, they are already in the gold medal game, and that is going to be happening this week, Thursday, the 19th. And that's going to be the winner of Canada and who's SUI?
Switzerland, but I don't.
Switzerland. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we'll find out
Yeah.
who they play. Obviously, we're rooting for Canada because we need a little bit more rivalry between U.S. and Canada when it comes to hockey. That was a little sarcasm there, if you couldn't pick up on that. And then before I want to close it out with one last thing, and I think this is something we talk about every single Olympics. But they talk about the Olympic Village being a place where a lot of these athletes are pretty attractive and they're trying to potentially get it on with other Olympic athletes. They, after 3 days, have used up what was it, 10,000 or 100,000 condoms. They used up basically all the condoms that were there.
That's
We got
pretty
a
wild.
lot of horny athletes that are looking
Listen,
to
there's a
enjoy their
lot of
time and
testosterone.
they're making a lot of future Olympians at the Olympics.
That's
we-
probably what's happening, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of estrogen, there's a lot of testosterone flying. You know what? That's just the way the beast goes. We're all human at the end of the day. We're animals.
And that's
There's only 3 things we care about.
our Olympic Minute. We're going to move on to NBA All-Star Weekend that was taking place out in LA. And candidly, I honestly kind of thought the weekend was not good.
Boo.
I
Yeah,
honestly thought the entire, I think there were a number of issues with it, but like the early start times, the lack of people actually being in the stands, it wasn't a good look. I think
What
it just was awful.
Why is Damian Lillard in the 3-point contest if he's not
Thank
playing?
you. That one really
What
bugs
is
me.
going on?
That really bugs me.
They're like Damian Lillard won the third one, and I was like, wait a second, he's not playing right now. How is he?
You shouldn't be allowed to participate if you're not a current athlete. Like if you're not currently playing.
Like I said, I didn't pay attention. The only thing I paid attention to was our Israeli brother that is now, a first time. The first time, I believe it's the first time Israeli All-Star, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong, and I'm sure someone will tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, technically, he was not Israeli, but Amari Stoudemire, who has claimed Israel. You could make the case for him.
I
But
could
true
make the
Israeli,
case
true Israeli, someone who was born there. Yeah, obviously he's the first one.
Yeah,
and probably won't be the last either, because
no, the sport's
it's
getting big, and
it's a basketball hotbed there. So
yeah,
Maccabi Tel Aviv, baby.
It is 100% with Pat Bev too.
And I think, the other thing too is is it time for us to end the dunk contest? I think the dunk contest has been underwhelming for the last couple of years. I think the 3-point contest, as much as we're talking about Lillard here, I still think it's one of the best competitions that they have. I think with the way and the proficiency at 3-point shots, maybe
you can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with that.
Do they create a half-court competition at some point here? Because I feel like,
might.
Get Payton Pritchard in there, get Steph Curry. There are some really good half-court shooters.
They need to. So I don't know about you, but I feel like the dunk contest kind of started altering right around when Dwight Howard came out with that Superman cape on.
100%.
I feel like that was like kind of the turning. Like 2010 was kind of like the turning, or 2011 or whatever it was. It was kind of the turning point of like things kind of getting out of control. Because then I think it was maybe the next year you had Blake Griffin jumping over Ikea, and it was just like, no, I want to see some crazy Vince Carter type shit. The kind of a dunk. I think the props are just getting out of hand, and they're bringing in celebrities and all these other things, and it doesn't catch my attention at all like it did before. I want to see athletic dunks. That's what I want.
The best players don't do it. So like if the best players aren't going to do it,
LeBron, calling him out. 22 years in the league, he's never done it once. He's supposed to be the best dunker in the league, and he's not going to do the dunk contest. Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, at this point, it would be cool if he did. It would be cool if he did it before he retired, just to say he did it. But like, I want to see players who are in their prime doing it, because to me that's the most important. The Shooting Stars competition, it was kind of cool because you had Ron Harper playing with his dad and his brother Dylan. But like, honestly, cool. I still think that was like a little bit weird. And then the All-Star game,
the Knicks had 3 of their starters there.
Can we talk about the All-Star game itself? This whole thing where they had 4 teams, like, could there be more of a turnoff for me to watch the All-Star game than doing that? Like,
let's talk about Team World for a second. Like, that is, how could you get better of a team than that?
It's nasty.
Luka,
nasty team.
Wemby, Giannis. Who else am I missing?
Jokic.
SGA, Jokic. There's no one better. I mean, I was looking at the USA roster. They have no big men. No big men. None.
Yeah. So interesting times for the NBA. I think they really need to kind of look at the All-Star weekend and reevaluate what that
Beverly
means.
Hills Police, because you know what? I don't think it was a permit issue. I think Nike was like, no, you know what? Here's fucking $100,000. Shut that shit down. And that's exactly what happened.
100%. They don't like the fact that Jaylen Brown has his own independent shoe. And like, I wouldn't be shocked if there was other things going on to draw away from something that he was doing, on the off night of the All-Star weekend. And obviously this was the night of the dunk contest 3-point, but this all took place well after that because they televised it so early for the East Coast. So I feel terrible for Jaylen Brown. Like, the dude is trying to get out there and do more with his platform than just, talk basketball. He's trying to impact other things like community wealth, trying to drive
philanthropy,
to drive things for, to help better
outreach.
Other people. And to not get the opportunity to do that is deplorable. So,
and he's
Beverly
literally
Hills,
it's just so contradictory because he's being stopped by people that run like sweat camps in different countries to get their products out there.
I was thinking when I heard this, I was like, where the hell is Axel Foley when you need him, right? Where's Beverly Hills, the finest, from the movie. So, all in all, excited for the Celtics to get back to it. They have a West Coast road trip that will be taking place, for starting at the second half of this week that will take us most of the way through the month. But one last Celtics thing I want to talk
I
about
believe
before we move
Wednesday.
on.
No, Thursday they start.
Yep, Thursday they start. One last thing I want to talk about, though, is a video that Jason Tatum released yesterday that was also co-sponsored by the Celtics, NBA, and NBC. It was all talking about like him going from being Superman. He had that commercial last year with Superman coming out with him having the Superman cape to getting injured and not sure if he was going to walk. And he talks about the rehab process and the process of not knowing that he wasn't going to be there to start the season. Coincidentally, NBC moved the game on March 1st against the 76ers, which is a home game, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock and is now going to be exclusively televised on NBC for Sunday night. So just putting 1 plus 1 together makes you think that Jason Tatum might be coming back on March 1st. So you do what you want with that information, but that's what I truly believe is going to be happening. I will also be on site on March 4th against the Charlotte Hornets. So if for some reason there is a slight setback and it seems like he's going to come back, maybe not on that game, but sometime around then, I would also peg March 4th to be a date to keep an eye for as well.
Yeah. And like I've said, since he went down and had that surgery unknown to all of us, there was no information that went out that night. And then the next thing you know, at 9 o'clock in the morning, Celtic social media posts a picture of him and he's just in a hospital bed. So, I do expect him to come back. We've been talking about it. I know you guys had that show a few days ago, and you were kind of talking about everything that was going on with Jason Tatum, but you don't do everything that you're doing to not come back. It's that plain, it's that simple. And you guys spelled it out. I was looking through it. You don't get rid of a guy that's scoring, in the same position, that's scoring 15 to 20 points a game for you, to get a versatile big man for someone who's can handle the ball, that can score 20 to 25 for you.
Yeah. So I think from a Celtics perspective, a lot to look forward to. Obviously, it'll be interesting to continue to see Vucevic fit in with the roster. Also, seeing Tatum eventually coming back. Hopefully, cross your fingers. And knock on some
Two
wood.
big pickups,
Hey,
Vucevic and
knock on some wood. Knock on some wood for me. All right.
Vucevic and Jason Tatum. Two big pickups in the
and we haven't even talked about what will they do with the remaining roster spots as well. So
Yeah,
there's a lot to
Chris
potentially happen.
Middleton. I think
Celtics.
Chris Middleton's still out there. There's a bunch of people still out there.
So we'll see what happens. And besides that, I think the only other big thing that really kind of happened this last weekend was the Daytona 500. Michael Jordan,
God, dude,
who invested
what are you doing, bro?
Oh, I know. We'll get to that in a second here. But I want to throw this out here that he just started investing in NASCAR recently, and winners win. Apparently, this guy who's on his team won. He hasn't been in the game for a long time, but I do think, but I do think Yao for Michael Jordan. I'm going to let you take this Yao over on why this is a Yao.
What are you doing, dude? Like me? Okay, if that was like I don't know. I don't know where to go with this one, because I've had family friends growing up when I was younger that would do not something like that, but something similar in a in a jokeful manner. But he's got to realize that he's got hundreds of cameras on him
Everywhere.
You can't be touching a little boy's butt repeatedly over and over again.
I think especially in the climate right now where it's all about the Epstein files and all the pedophilia and stuff going through that, and a powerful man, it's not a good look.
Dude, your name could just pop right out. I don't want it to.
Do I think this is going to be something that's going to haunt him or his legacy? No, I think it's actually going to be something that moving on people are not going to remember. Hey, the internet remembers everything, right? So something to just kind of be aware of. But yeah, I mean, not a lot else going on in the sports world right now. We're kind of in that little bit of a lull, but we still have the Winter Olympics that we'll continue to be talking about. Still diving into the Red Sox next week when spring training will be starting, and the Celtics will be getting back on the road this week. So we'll have some more information on them. And the Patriots, we're letting them kind of breathe a little bit as they get into the off season. But the combine is going to be coming on up next month. So when we start getting close to combine season, we'll start keeping our eye towards what are some prospects and some names that we as fans should be keeping an eye on.
I'd like a linebacker.
This is a great draft for linebackers apparently. So and edge rushers. So two areas
Those
that I think could
are the
improve.
two things that I wanted, but
Yeah.
Max
So
Crosby essentially wants out. So this roster might look a lot more different come next
I don't
year.
know though. I don't know if I want to trade like a first round pick for Max Crosby if you can get some younger and cheaper cost control player or at multiple levels in the draft, because this apparently I've heard that there are at least 10 edge rushers that will be going in the first 2 rounds, and guys that are going in the second round in a lot of years will be considered first rounders. So take that with what
Okay.
you will.
Okay. All right. Let's take
So
it and spend that money
I'm taking that from the
on a wide
the experts.
receiver. Spend that money on a wide receiver and another tight end.
Maybe one Tyreek Hill who was just released today. Maybe not. Maybe he'll be going back to the Chiefs. Maybe he'll be going to another team like the Baltimore Ravens or the Bills. Who knows? We will find out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So, but that is it for us
All
today. We hope that you guys all have a great week ahead, near, far, wherever you are. Signing off. This is Big E and Sam saying we will see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Jahmai, thank you again for coming on, my friend.